All right, so this is chapter 1. This time it's section 2, so section 1.2. And observational studies versus designed experiments. So now we're going to go into experiments and studies. All right, looking at this, so researchers want to determine whether there is an association between mobile phone use and brain tumors. To do so, 791,710 middle-aged women in the United Kingdom were followed over a period of 7 years. During this time, there were 1,261 incidences of brain tumors. The researchers compared the women who have never used a mobile phone to those who use mobile phones and found no significant difference in the incident rate of the brain tumors between the two groups. All right, so now from here, the researchers from the United States National Toxicology Program conducted a study to address a concern that radio frequency radiation, or RFR, may be associated with an increased likelihood of developing brain tumors in humans. Certainly, it is unethical to expose or to purposely expose humans to a potential carcinogen, so rats were used instead. So the researchers randomly assigned 90 rats to one of 3 possible groups. Each of the groups was housed in a reverberation chamber that allowed the rats to be exposed to the RFR. Group 1 rats served as a control group and were not exposed to any RFR in their chambers. Group 2 rats were exposed to global systems for mobile communications, or GSM, modulated RFR, and group 3 rats were exposed to code division multiple access, or CDMA, modulated RFR. So GSM and CDMA are the modulation primarily used in the United States. Rats in group 2 and 3 were exposed to RFR using a continuous cycle of 10 minutes on, or 10 minutes exposed, and 10 minutes off, 10 minutes not exposed, for a total daily exposure time of about 9 hours a day, 7 days a week for approximately 2 years. Each chamber was maintained on a 12-hour light-dark schedule with a temperature range of 72 degrees Fahrenheit, plus or minus 3 degrees, a humidity range of 50 plus minus 15%, and with at least 10 air changes per hour. All the rats had the same access to food and water. The researchers found low incidences of brain tumors in the rats exposed to RFR for both GSM and CDMA modulations, while there were no cases of brain tumors in the control group. However, the incidence rate was not significant or statistically significant. All right, so in both studies, the goal of the research was to determine if radio frequencies from the cell phones increase the risk of contracting any brain tumors. Whether or not the brain cancer was contracted is the response variable. The level of cell phone usage is the explanatory variable. In research, we wish to determine how varying the amounts of an explanatory variable affects the values of a response variable. So those are 2 key terms right now: explanatory variable, response variable. What changes were made in order to study, and what were the results? So we could think of this as the change, and we could think of this as a result. All right, so now an observational study measures the value of the response variable without attempting to influence the value of either the response variable or the explanatory variable. So that is, in an observational study, the researcher observes the behavior of the individuals in the study without trying to influence the outcome of the study. So that's observational study. If a researcher assigns the individuals in a study to groups, intentionally manipulates the value of an explanatory variable, and then records the value of the response variable for each individual, the researcher is conducting a designed experiment. So designed experiment, we intentionally do stuff. Observational study, we just observe. All right, so researchers wanted to determine the long-term benefits of the influenza vaccines on seniors aged 65 years old, 65 years and older by looking at records of over 36,000 seniors for 10 years. The seniors were divided into two groups. Group one were seniors who chose to get a flu vaccination shot, and group two were seniors who chose not to get a flu vaccination shot. After observing the seniors for 10 years, it was determined that the seniors who got the flu shots are 27% less likely to be hospitalized for pneumonia or influenza, and 48% less likely to die from pneumonia or influenza. Based on the results of the study, would you recommend that all seniors go out and get the flu shot? So there's still a couple of things that we have to ask. So the study may have flaws, namely confounding. So confounding in a study occurs when the effects of two or more explanatory variables are not separated. Therefore, any relation that may exist between the explanatory variable and the response variable may be due to some other variable or variables not accounted for in the study. Lurking variable. So lurking variable is an explanatory variable that is not considered in the study, but that affects the value of the response variable in the study. In addition, lurking variables are typically related to an explanatory variable considered in the study. All right, so some lurking variables in the influenza study. Age. So they did give us an age range, but age does tend to take a huge toll on people the later it is. So kind of looking at let's see what the age was for the study. So 65 and older. So we could have a healthy 65-year-old. They're pretty young, so they're not super old. And older, we're comparing a 65-year-old person to like a 95-year-old person. So those 30 years do have a lot of different things that could like pull the study one way or another. Another thing is health status. So what is our health status going into the study? The people that got the flu vaccine, were they in good health or were they not in good health? Mobility of the senior is also a big one. So the more you move around, the more active you are, the less likely you are to get sick. Your body is still fighting. It still has like a pretty strong immune system if you like go take walks daily, especially at that age. If you're immobile for those times, like if you're immobile for the time of the study, you might not be in the best health. Someone that's still walking around or taking hikes at the age of like 65 or 70 or whatever, they're still going to have like a better health compared to someone that's just sitting down all day in the little retirement homes. Even after accounting for the potential lurking variables, the authors of the study concluded that getting the influenza shot is associated with a lower risk of being hospitalized or dying from influenza. So here they did take into account each and every one of these different parts, and especially when determining like what person or what group got the vaccine, what group didn't get the vaccine. They took into account everyone's age. So they looked at everyone's age group and kind of separated them. They looked at their health status, separated those people, and their overall mobility of the seniors, separated those people, the people that were mobile, put a couple of them in each of the groups, people that were immobile, a couple of those in each of the groups. And that would be a observational study. So observational studies do not allow a researcher to claim causation, only association. Causation means that one thing leads to another. Association, it just so happened to work out. So association would be like every time I go on the freeway, there's traffic. So I'm not associating the likelihood of me leaving work at the exact same time every day. I'm just looking at me going onto the freeway, there's traffic. So association is not causation. So me jumping onto the freeway is not, or me driving on the freeway is not cause for there to be traffic. Like traffic doesn't happen every time that I go on the freeway. So causation does not, or it claims causation, it doesn't claim association. A confounding variable is an explanatory variable that was considered in the study who was effect cannot be distinguished from a second explanatory variable in the study. So similarly, it's basically a lurking variable would be considered a confounding variable. All right, so explain the various types of observational studies. So we have cross-sectional studies, so observational studies that collect information about the individuals at a specific point in time or over a short period of time. Case control studies, these studies are retrospective, so we're looking back in time, so meaning that require individuals to look back in time or require the researcher to look at existing records. So in case control studies, individuals who have certain characteristics are matched with those that do not have those characteristics. A cohort study first identifies a group of individuals to participate in the study or cohort. The cohort is then observed over a long period of time. Over this time period, characteristics about the individual are recorded. Because the data is collected over time, cohort studies are prospective. And so meaning we're looking ahead of time or what we believe will happen ahead of time. Census, so a census is a list of all individuals in a population along with certain characteristics of each individual. So a census for this class would be like me looking at the roster and me seeing what you guys are going to school for. So for each, or another characteristic would be whether or not you're a DPS student, whether or not you're a youth. Youth is defined as someone that's under the age of 18. What's another thing? Just looking at that. So census is just like all the individuals in a specific population. All right, web scraping or data mining. So the process of extracting data from the internet. Web scraping can be used to extract the data from the tables on web pages and then uploading the data to a file. Or web scraping can be used to create data set of words from an online article. So that is fetching unstructured information and transforming it into a structured format through something called parsing and reformatting processes. So web scraping is becoming an important part of the data science industry. There are ethical issues associated with web scraping. After all, the scraping of data in these pages is often done without the permission of the host. So web scraping normally comes from, if you kind of think of your cell phone, whenever you download those free games saying you're not paying for the games, they're collecting data off everything you use on your phone, what you're talking about. So if you guys watch TikTok, they kind of talk about this, make fun of it. Like, oh, my FBI agent is really listening to me because all of a sudden on TikTok on my For You page, there's, I don't know, there's dog stuff because we have dogs, or I like makeup. So there's a lot of people like doing makeup and stuff. So that's what that is. More than ever, you will find that government agencies, companies, and sports organizations regularly make data available to the public. Often the data can be downloaded from their websites as CSVs, Excel or text files. So for a small sample of those, for a small sample of websites that have data available for download, go to this website right here. This page is updated periodically to keep current with the immense amount of data available for the analysis. And there you go. That's 1.2. If you guys have any questions, please email me. Good luck.